Hi, this is Robin. You might notice I have a different computer here. It's my Commodore VIC-20, and that's because we're going to be looking at a preview of a brand new game called Realms of Quest V by Ghislain de Blois. Excuse my French. And it's a role-playing game for the VIC-20. It's on pre-order right now, and it's going to be available for sale July 1st, 2019. So if you're watching this in June 2019, pre-order, and in the future, it's available for sale. And unlike certain other RPGs that I won't mention the name of, this one's actually complete, and we're going to take a look at it today. So that's why I have my VIC-20 out. This particular VIC-20 has Jiffy DOS installed. That's what the switch is down here. I actually got that from Maurice Randall back when he was still around. I was actually a beta tester for Jiffy DOS back then, but I believe you can buy it from Jim Brain's website now. And because this game requires 32 kilobytes, I've got my penultimate cartridge, or penultimate plus cartridge here from The Future Was 8-Bit. And here it is. It's an excellent cartridge that has a whole bunch of utility cartridges built in, and it's also got a variety of RAM expanders. So this is an excellent purchase, but it is a bit pricey. If you're looking for a low-cost 32K alternative, my friend Sam at Dorktronic on eBay sells his own 32K RAM expander without all the extras, and it's a more economical choice. So I'll put a link to those in the description below. So just going to plug that in. And I'll be running the game today from my micro IEC from Jim Brain. You could also use any sort of storage device. The game ships on 5¼ discs. And there's also a digital version. And you can install that on any device you want. If you like flipping discs and that's all you have is a 1541, that'll work. And if you have something like a micro IEC or SD2 IEC or any other storage device, I'm not using it today, but here I've got my CMD FD2000 drive. It'll work on that as well. Okay, let's power up. Okay, the penultimate plus boots to this menu with loads of choices. Today all we're going to be using is the 32K mode, which you press F3 to shortcut to. And we'll just boot up Realms of Quest V here. Okay, so we'll do a quick start on the game. You can actually create a whole party from scratch, up to 10 characters in your party, but we'll look at that a bit later. For now, we'll just start with the included RPG so you can get an idea how it's pretty easy to get in considering how old school it is. Okay, so this is one of the 3 large castles, and these are like the bases in the game where you can create characters, rest them, gain levels, and so on. There's a market. We'll just exit right away. Now, by the way, you can play the game with a joystick. It's all menu driven, and I prefer using the keyboard, but just so you're aware, that joystick control does work. Go ahead to the move option, play using the cursor keys and return and space. Here we are on the overworld, and we'll walk up and over and just press return. On option, we'll look at the sign. Reading the sign, Vivat Suprema Domina. My Latin isn't so good. And then she appears. Behold Her Majesty, the Grand Empress of Greater Riveria, Lady Camilla Bane, as she welcomes thee. Lady Camilla Bane gives you a portion of the Tablet of Uthar. Once you found all of the scattered shards and united the Tablet of Uthar, cometh back here. With the sacred power of the tablet, we shall defeat the resistance who wishes to destroy Riveria. So that's the main point of the game, is to gather all the tablets. Okay, and if you use the search feature, some of the tablet pieces you have to search for, and there are actually 121 of them to find. So we found one because she gave it to us. Let's follow the road here. There's a town. Enter the town. And you can talk to anybody just by bumping into them. A stern-looking guard is watching you closely. Ask the name, that is none of your concern. Job, I guard the great city. Info. So there's probably hundreds of characters in this game. There's apparently 20 cities and 20 dungeons. This is one of the 20 cities. And if you want to get anywhere in the game, you're definitely going to have to talk to everybody and find clues about the location of the different shards. Here's some buildings. Here's a kid. You see a young lad playing with some toys. He's Henry. There's a lot of money hidden in a secret room. Okay, thanks, Henry. And I found that's just down here. That little dot is a secret door. That's a reminder, I think it was Ultima 4 where I first saw that. Secret doors you could walk through. And there it is, there's a chest. We'll open that. You got 500 gold. There's a man building things in his workshop, Raiolus, working hard to make goods so that we can afford to pay the taxes. You can ask people to join. So over here, there's a young girl, Melanie. This is Henry's sister, I think. I like to play while my parents are working hard. I heard of a secret. My little brother might know more about it. You can give people a coin or two, ask them to join. Here's a character, a jolly and drunken man. I am Fontaine at your service. Why, I drink, of course, and if I grow weary or tired, I continue to drink some more. Info, I think I saw something rather peculiar right in front of that barrel just nearby. Okay. So there's a couple barrels here. Press space. And we could do a search. You find a shard. There's the second shard. And there's the barman greets you. How may I serve you? I'm Ozzy at your service. I serve the finest ale in all Bavaria in this tavern. For only 25 gold, I'll serve thee a schooner of lucky sling and tell you the latest gossip. So let's pay him. Enjoy, I've heard that piece of the tablet of Uthar may be located just 3 miles south outside of this town. All right. And this fella, before you stands a somber, proud, and slightly inebriated man. My name is Joshin. I was a knight who formerly served the Baroness Jacala, who stripped me of my title for bribery. I seek a worthy and lawful adventurer to join to prove my redemption and my penitence. So you can ask them to join, and who will ask to join? So we'll ask, I cannot join thee, but I think if we have the priest ask, I am honored to join thee. So characters will only join you based on certain attributes of that particular character who does the asking. Okay, and we'll go and leave the town. Yes. So there's that clue that there's a shard 3 miles south, 1, 2, and 3. And here we'll search. There, you find a shard. Now we have 3 of the 121. And let's save. So there's 4 save slots. And we'll move. There's another location. I haven't actually managed yet, but this is a place you can buy a ship to sail the seas. I think from this guy here, you see a merchant that is supervising the pier. The name is Warrain. How may I help thee? I sell the finest naval vessels in all Bavaria. My ships aided the great lady, Bane, win the Civil War. I can sell these ships, so 10,000 gold coins. I do not have that many. I work here at the Dock Info. I've heard that a portion of the tablet has dropped just 3 nautical miles to the west of this town. So once we actually get a ship, that would be interesting. Okay, so you can see just to the west of where our character is. Okay, so I'm going to continue to play the game. You can watch that in the one window, and with the power of editing, I'm going to go through parts of the manual and some interesting answers I got back from Ghislain about the development of this game. I actually met him way back in 2003 during the mini game competition. I had entered my little 4K C64 role-playing game called Minima, and he had entered a VIC-20 RPG called Dungeon 2. And actually I just found out that it was actually my friend Jason Compton who suggested to Ghislain online that he should enter the minigame competition. So how about that? Now the manual for this is really great. It's 52 pages, and when you buy the boxed game, it's included a printed manual. I should also point out here that I have Realms of Quest. This is actually Realms of Quest 3 that was released by Cytronic Software some years ago. And there's also Realms of Quest 4. This is actually the first 3 games, a trilogy in one. Realms of Quest 4 came out a few years ago. So we'll just look through some of the manual here. Realms of Quest 5, the map of the world. And in the part I've played so far, we've gone from Riveria here to Biggie Woods, and then up to that dungeon where we met our doom. So that's the part of the game that we've seen so far, and there's a lot of other world to explore. Table of contents, system requirements and setup, the story, setting up the world, about what the menus do, the castles that we've looked at. Here's all the different races in this world: humans, elves, dwarves, halflings. And there's this chart that shows the strengths, like the advantages and disadvantages to each of the races. Humans are just totally typical with the stars here. Elves are better at some things and weaker in others, and so on. So when you're trying to make your own characters, this is what you're going to want to do. The attributes, strength, IQ, wisdom, agility, health, charisma, similar to Dungeons & Dragons. Armor class, hit points. And then there's the alignment, chaotic, neutral, or lawful. And that affects the gameplay in a few ways. Depending on the sum total of the alignment of your party, it'll make either running easier, running away from combat easier, or on the other hand, easier to avoid combat in the first place. Male and female have separate bonuses, so you might want to consider that when you're choosing. And there's all the different classes available: fighter, wizard, priest, thief, bard, courtesan, demodian, druid, lord, monk, ninja, paladin, peasant, ranger, sage, and war mage. And each one has an icon, and that's when you're viewing your character. You can tell by up in the top right corner, like that X, that box with an X through it, is a fighter. The priest is this little symbol here. I find priests very useful. The bard, and so on. Different classes can use different weapons, armor, shields, and so on. And of course some have magic and others don't. There's a detail, the magic system. View. There's those symbols at the bottom of the main screen. that show if you activate your light, detect magic, invisibility, wizard's eye, and so on. Saving, searching, we've tried that already. All the different cities. And like I said, there's hundreds of characters. I'm sure they don't all have unique portraits, but there's many different portraits. There's about the dungeons. There's a map of one of the dungeons. All about combat. Getting the loot afterwards can be quite dangerous. Here's some hints about where all the different tablet pieces are. 11 by 11, 121 fragments or shards in total. And then excellent, these appendixes. I love appendices in manuals like this that show all the different rules about the spells and so on. Okay, and all the different equipment available. All the monsters. Many, many different monsters. So you can see it's an absolutely huge game. I think we can say for sure that this is the biggest VIC-20 game ever created. And so it really is quite an accomplishment. So Ghislain's done a number of interviews before because he's been making role-playing games for many years. VIC-20 games. His very first computer that he got was a VIC-20. And he got by collecting bottle cap liners. And actually I have a similar story about how I got a Pac-Man game. But that was his beginnings. And he grew up here in Northern Ontario. Now, I didn't ever meet him in person, but he grew up in the town of Timmins, which is a Francophone community, or there's a large number of French-speaking people in that part of Ontario, you know, as you may tell by his name. The many other VIC-20 games he's created. Some of the inspiration for his games comes from, of course, Ultima, Fantasy, Telengard, and this Oubliette, I believe you pronounce it, which was originally a mainframe game. Here's some of the very earliest Realms of Quest levels he made many, many years ago. Theater of War series. There's Realms of Quest 4, some advertising for it. What are you most excited about in Realms of Quest 5? It's all the NPC features. 350 graphical pieces. Okay, and I asked Ghislain what were his biggest hurdles in developing this game. He found the hardest thing for him was writing the story content and dialogue. It would be nice to have had another person writing all the dialogue for the game, but that would prove very difficult to make sure it all fit into the game world. So he says he spent at least 6 months creating all the characters and the story in the game. There's some examples of the dialogue, the poems. He did work with some contributors. The dungeons were done by Ruby Golem. The inner artwork was by Brian Henry. The technical advisor, Michael Kircher. Music by Ryan Liston. Outer artwork by Ten Shu. Producer Jeremy Marson. And hey, I got a thanks there. And so he said getting other people to help was difficult because sometimes he had to ask them to redo it. Well, I can imagine that as well, that if other people have volunteered or have done work for you and you're not happy with it, it can be difficult to deal with that. He also said it was actually very helpful that other people worked on the game because, as Ghislain spent 2.5 years making this game, the fact that other people had contributed to it helped keep him on track for getting the game done. He didn't want their contributions to go to waste. And he also found that he redid a lot of his own artwork. He'd go back and look at it and wasn't happy with some of the portraits and would redo them as well. And finally, he found making the world map very difficult. It's 128 by 128 tiles. Originally, he had wanted to do a 512 by 512 world, and he said that might have taken many months. As it was, it took about 3 weeks to create the main world map. It's a nice shot of the world map. He actually said one of the easiest things about this project was actually the programming. He found programming to be very enjoyable, and he never got hung up on a bug for more than maybe a day to fix. As for my view regarding completing such a large project, I had severely underestimated the amount of time it would take to make it. He thought he would be able to finish this game in 8 months, and mind you, he's very experienced at making RPGs. This is actually at least his 5th one he's made in this series, but he started it when he was unemployed, and then he got a new job. Of course, he had a lot less free time to actually work on the game, so he started it in 2017, and at the end of 2017, the game wasn't nearly done. But, as he says here, from an ethical standpoint, I could not simply drop the project because others had invested their time into it, and he couldn't let that go to waste. And he wants to point out that he started his own games back in the 1980s and did not finish many of them, and finally went back and actually finished and released some of those earliest games of his too. But he stresses that it's very important to take small steps with game development. Take on a modest, small game. This is also my own paraphrase, my own experience here. Do a small game first and just finish it, and then continue to work from there on making bigger and more advanced games. It takes a little bit of humility to know that you can't do that game of your dreams at the beginning. You have to start small and then build up from there. Okay, so I hope you found that informative. It wasn't like a complete playthrough. This game is huge. So obviously I wasn't going to do a complete playthrough, but I think I touched on all the core elements of the game. There's obviously a huge load of content here, and I'd recommend I'm going to be getting a copy of this game, and anybody who wants to be part of a bit of VIC-20 history, I think will want a copy of this game, because it's a labor of love getting it, making a role-playing game for a computer like the VIC-20, which is very much in the shadow of its big brother, the C64, or its younger brother, but more powerful follow-up, the C64. And I'm sure other people will be releasing more complete playthrough videos or gameplay videos in the future. I was particularly interested in the development of this. How do you get through a huge project like this? So congratulations to Ghislain, Double-Sided Games, who's doing the publishing of the game, and everybody else involved in this project. I've been watching it and talking to Ghislain on and off over the last several years as he's been completing his RPG. So congratulations to him. That's it for the video. If you want to see the introduction, I'm going to play that now. Otherwise, thanks for watching. We'll talk to you next time.